Photosynthesis, the life-sustaining process. Today our topic is energy transfer, unit 1.1. Our objectives will be to define photosynthesis, to discuss the requirements of photosynthesis, and to understand how light energy is being trapped and converted from one form to another during photosynthesis. Let's define photosynthesis. It is the process by which green plants prepare their food from the inorganic raw materials. The inorganic raw materials are carbon dioxide and water. These two react together to form carbohydrates, like in the form of glucose, and oxygen, which is then released into the atmosphere. In this picture you can see that sunlight which falls upon the plants, it helps in the conversion of carbon dioxide which comes into the plants through stomata in the leaves, and the water which comes into the plants through the root hair cells from the soil, and they are converted into glucose, which is used as a food by the plants and is then provided to other organisms, and oxygen is produced, which is then released into the atmosphere. This whole process occurs in the presence of sunlight. So it means light energy is very much important to the process of photosynthesis. The requirements of photosynthesis. The basic requirements of photosynthesis are energy, which comes in the form of sunlight, chlorophyll, which is already present in the chloroplast of the leaf, water, which comes in the plants through root hair cells from the soil, and carbon dioxide, which enters in the plants through stomata from the atmosphere into the plants. Before going into the detail of photosynthesis, we must learn the structure of a leaf. Here we have two pictures. One is the picture of a generalized leaf, and the next picture, the other one, is the internal structure of a leaf, the cross-section area. In the cross-section diagram, you can see that there are different type of cells, like the one on the borders of both sides of the borders of the leaf are the epidermal cells, the upper epidermis and the lower epidermis. In between these two epidermis, there are mesophyll cells. We have two types of mesophyll cells on the basis of their location and the spaces present in between them. The air spaces are the intercellular spaces. First type is the palisade mesophyll, and the second type is the spongy mesophyll. Palisade mesophyll and spongy mesophyll, they both help in the process of photosynthesis. Why? Because they contain chloroplast. Let's move into the cell, like the structure of a plant cell. The plant cell contains different types of organelles, as do animal cells have, but there are some differences, like there are some organelles which plant cells contain but animal cells do not have. One among them is the chloroplast. Chloroplast is only found in plant cells because it contains chlorophyll, and chlorophyll helps in the trapping of sunlight or the radiant energy and convert it into chemical energy. And there are a lot of organelles, as you can see, but our concern here in this topic is with the chloroplast. Let's have a look into the interior of the cell. As you observed previously in the diagram, there are some small pores or spaces in the epidermis, in the lower epidermis of the leaf, which is known as stomata. Here is stomata. We are going to enter into the leaf through this stomata, as carbon dioxide do have. Inside the leaf structure, there are a lot of cells which we saw previously in the diagram, which are known as the mesophyll cells. So these are all those mesophyll cells in the interior of the leaf. Why? And this is known as, these are known as the spongy mesophyll because they contain a lot of spaces. Let's get inside the mesophyll cell. Here is the mesophyll cell. We start our journey inside the mesophyll cells. You can see there is a big vacuole and there are different types of organelles, green and purple color and blue color, and some other structures are also there. But as I already said that our concern here is with the photosynthesis, so we will only study chloroplast. When we move inside the chloroplast, we saw there are different type of different structures. Like the one which is most common is the coin-like structures piled upon one another, called as the thylakoids or the granum. These thylakoid membranes have chlorophyll on their surface. As you can see, there are a lot of chlorophyll molecules which are embedded in the thylakoid membrane. The function of these chlorophyll molecules is to trap sunlight or the radiant energy from the sun and convert it into chemical form of energy. So the conversion of energy occurs here on the thylakoid membranes, which is done by the chlorophyll. Okay, the energy transfer. Living organisms needs energy to perform any function in the body. That energy is obtained from the food we eat. Now, if the energy is obtained from the food we eat, like all animals along with us, we cannot prepare our own food for ourselves. Like we are heterotrophs. But plants, they are autotrophs, are producers. They can prepare their own food for themselves. So the energy which they store in their food comes from the sun. As I told you before, that photosynthesis cannot happen without sunlight. Why? Because sunlight gives radiant energy to the plants, and with the help of that radiant energy, plants prepare their own food in the form of glucose, which is then used by the plants for their energy requirements. There are specialized organelles in the plant cells called as the chloroplast. Chloroplasts contain chlorophyll, which help them in trapping radiant energy from the sun and convert it into chemical energy. Chemical energy, we call it adenosine triphosphate, or in short term we call it ATP. Here is the diagrammatic representation of the conversion of energy. Like from the sun, radiant energy comes, which fall upon the chloroplast in the leaves. Those chloroplasts contains chlorophyll, the green pigment of the leaves, and the chlorophyll helps in the conversion of that radiant energy coming from the sun into the chemical energy, which is ATP. That ATP is then stored as glucose or as food in the plant body. Plants also uses that food for their own energy requirements, and the rest are the extra food molecules, glucose molecules, are then converted into starch and are being stored in the plant parts. This is the overall equation of photosynthesis. Like carbon dioxide reacts with water molecule in the presence of sunlight, and this whole process occurs in the chloroplast of the leaf, where water and carbon dioxide is converted into glucose and oxygen. Glucose is used as a food and stored as a food, and oxygen is being released by the plants into the atmosphere.